Today is Wednesday, May the 2nd, 2012. I am Matthew T.G.
I'm Heath Mullican.
And I am Tony Casey. Yes, live. Welcome to the Technology Show. This is a weekly podcast featuring technology, theology, and everything in between. This is episode 155. Woo-hoo. All right, so lots of changes here, and throw it over to you, Matthew. Talk about the new live stream that we're doing.
Right, so this is a brand new streaming provider. Some of you may have noticed that things look different when you go to the technologyshow.com/live. We are using now a service called Livestream. It just came out of beta, but what it's providing for us is a low-cost solution to stream to you basically a high-definition stream, but that can be scaled way back. So it'll work on lots of different internet connections. Whether your connection is fast or slow, it'll adapt to your quality. It also is ad-free for you, the viewer. And that's something that we were running into a lot over the past few weeks. As more people joined the show, Ustream would run more ads. And so I know that I talked with Steven and a few others who said that they were getting upwards of 6 or more 30-second advertisement breaks at different points during the show. They would come, I mean, we didn't schedule those. They would come at just whatever time Ustream wanted to throw them up. And sometimes that would break at a very inopportune time during conversation and mess you up. So this is a pay-for solution, just to let you know. We're doing this for you, right? We are actually paying out of pocket to get this to you in this way. That's why when we ask that you consider supporting the show, this is the kind of stuff that it would go towards helping to fund. But anyways, there it is. We're hoping that everything's going to work great. At this point, the chat room is quite a different beast than the last chat room was. Yes. It's not as fully fleshed out as Ustream's chat room was. So at this point, Heath is kind of monitoring that. I can't see the chat room. Tony's not seeing the chat room today. Heath is kind of playing point man on that. You can get into that if you're watching this video on the right-hand side of the video.
You're right.
Yeah. On the right-hand side of the video, you're going to see a spot where it says, add a comment or something like that. You may see some people's comments already there. If you start typing something there and hit to send it, it's going to ask you to log in or to create an account with Livestream. You can use your Facebook account to get that started, and then all you'll need is just to create a password for Livestream. It'll pull your Facebook profile picture and a couple other things, which is kind of cool, and give your real name during the chat, which is nice. And that's pretty much it as far as I can tell. Tony, anything else that you can think of?
Like the idea that Heath is the godfather of the chat.
So can I speak for all of us when I say farewell, Ustream?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I've got.
We hope.
I certainly am thankful for Ustream. I'm thankful for. Just the ability to put out something live like we have over the past how many years now? We've used Ustream from the beginning,
over
but
3 years.
Over that time, it's become more and more, not nice.
No, it's free. We haven't had to pay a dime. Right. They have to make money. They do it through advertisements.
Right. And that's how they make money. So we get that. But what we want to do is, as our show continues to grow, as we continue to try to push quality, we want to give the viewer a better experience.
There's a report that there's a little bit of an echo in the chat room.
A little bit of an echo. Okay, I will see if I can track down what would be causing an echo this morning and see if I can fix it.
All right. Well, listen.
Turn your radio down. If you're
Oh, that's crazy. Hey, we want to welcome to the show today Dr. Bob Bagley. He's joining us all the way from South Africa. Both Bob and Brenda Bagley are former missionary kids, and his teens accepted the call to serve Christ in full-time ministry. Following 4.5 years in the pastorate, they served as global partners missionaries to South Africa from 1982 through 2004. While in Africa, Bob served as principal for the Emmanuel Wesleyan Bible College, that's EWBC, in Swaziland. Southern Africa Mission Director for Global Partners, Director of Ministerial Training for the Southern African region of the Wesleyan Church, and Director of Wesleyan African Advanced Leadership Training. Brenda taught at EWBC and Wesleyan Evangelical Seminary, mentored African women leaders, and established Compassionate Ministries South Africa. Bob and Brenda are both graduates of Southern Wesleyan University. In addition, Bob received an MA in missiology from Columbia Bible Seminary and a PhD in educational studies from Trinity Evangelical Divinity School, while Brenda received an MA in missions and intercultural studies from Wheaton College Graduate School. Bob, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Hey, listen, one of the things we didn't have in that whole bio there was that you were my teacher for missions when I was in college.
Yeah, did you pass?
Well, I did. Yeah, barely. You gave me extra credit, so it pulled me up to a D+. So, yeah, it was very formative, very formative course in my life.
Oh, my.
You know, seriously, that was a very formative. I knew nothing about missions, and when we got done with that course, I was determined wherever I pastored, we were going to be missionary-minded. And so when I became pastor at Golden Grove, we were what I call the typical church on the district. We were given about 2.5%, 3% of our annual income to missions, and within 3 or 4 years, we got that up to about 12%. And I really credit you and just your influence in my life in that area. It was very formative.
It was a great class.
All right. Well, listen, let's jump in here. We talked about Kony 2012 about a month ago. That video went viral. It was everywhere. Everyone was posting it. And right on the heels of that, you posted an article and just entitled Wesleyans and Kony 2012. One of the things that you say in that article is the ongoing conflict in Central Africa. It's very complex, and the complexity is lost in Kony 2012. Explain some of that complexity to our listeners, and maybe give us a feel so we can understand a little bit better from a cultural point of view, what goes on.
Oh, okay. This conflict is taking place in an area where a number of countries, Uganda, DRC, Central African Republic, Sudan, Rwanda, Burundi, all meet, or more or less meet in that same general area. Each one of those countries have been having, over the past 3 decades or so, ongoing internal conflicts, coups, and that sort of stuff, and they've flopped back across borders. So if you're fighting against the government of the DRC, for example, you might set up your camps across the border in Uganda and make forays in. And so government forces go back and forth across the border. So there's a lot of countries involved, a lot of different conflicts. There's ethnic conflict between different tribal groups, and a lot of armed militias. Between 98 and 2003, officially anyway, was what they call the Second Congo War, considered the most deadly war since World War II.
Wow.
Estimates are that about 5.4 million people were killed during that period. There were 9 different countries with forces on the ground in the Congo, and over 20 armed militias who were loyal simply to their leadership, like Kony, who was in at that period of time.
Okay.
In 2003, peace accord brokered by South Africa officially brought an end to the war. The armed forces from those countries like Uganda and Sudan and so on pulled out of the Congo, but all of the armed militias stayed. And they have grown in number. So you have multiple small groups and bands who are not friends with each other, nor are they friends with the government in power. It's nasty stuff. The Kony campaign is sort of focused on the one guy and the child soldier issue, and for sure he needs to be caught and taken care of, and the child soldier issue is a major issue that needs to be dealt with, but there's a whole lot more going on. You get rid of Kony, and I hope they do, you've got 30 or 40 others just as bad as he is, carrying on the same kind of stuff.
Wow.
So do you think with the Kony campaign, it maybe did put a laser focus on him, but maybe diluted how far-reaching and big the problem actually is?
I'm not sure it's diluted it, because there hasn't really been any attention on that part
Right.
of Africa. And so, hopefully it will create some awareness of the kinds of issues that are being faced there. Let me touch a little bit on some of the other kinds of atrocities that are taking place there. Rape is a major tool of war for intimidation purposes. Estimates are during the official war period, over 200,000 women were raped
Unbelievable.
by the forces as they came through villages. Cannibalism, particularly of the Pygmy tribes. There's a belief common within cultures up there that if you eat a pygmy, there's some magical powers associated with that. And so those tribes have been pursued through those jungle areas like animals, to be hunted down and killed and eaten. Thousands upon thousands. Report out from the BBC this week. One of those militias has just gone through an area, and multiple thousands now are on the run for their lives from their homes and home areas.
Well, just a minute here, Bob. So just for clarity, I mean, you're talking about, we're not talking about the history like years ago. You're talking about right now.
We're talking about right now.
Wow.
Yeah. Incredible.
And so, if they, the U.S. is there with 100 military advisors with the Ugandan army chasing Kony, probably over near Sudan. Nobody knows exactly where he is. If they catch him, they probably haven't caught the guy who's causing the most trouble at the present time.
That's incredible. Does this turn into an issue of resources too? I mean, if you say you said if you get rid of Kony, there are going to be 30 to take his place, and so I mean, how realistic is it that the government has enough resources to actually track these people?
I don't think it's realistic at all. And Congo itself is pretty much ungovernable. It's a big country. It's the largest French-speaking country in the world, both in terms of population as well as land mass. It's about a quarter of the size of the U.S. Internal infrastructure in the country really doesn't exist. Our churches are down in the southeast of the country. When I was there one time, I asked them, how long would it take me to drive to Kinshasa, the capital city? And they looked at me and said, you're crazy. You can't drive from here to the capital. It's impossible.
Really?
And if the only transportation is air transportation between those parts of the country.
Wow.
When I got home, I did a Google map thing on it, and sure enough, in order to drive from that part of the country, they take you out of the country, up through Angola and all the way around, and then back in from the west.
Wow.
So is that kind of
how do you govern that kind of thing?
Yeah, is that kind of a metaphor? I mean, that lack of is it a metaphor for no structure at all within the country? I mean, the facts that the roads aren't there to be able to travel?
Yeah, for sure.
Wow. Bob, in your article, you talk about the Wesleyan Church having established works in Uganda and the Congo. One of the things that I was happy about all this is from the Wesleyan perspective, maybe brought some attention to the work that is going on. So talk about what our denomination is doing in those two countries.
Yeah, thanks. And that was the reason I wrote the article.
Right.
It sort of hit me with some frustration and triggered by the interview you had done a couple of weeks before with Greg Edmonds about the situation in Haiti. When the earthquake hit, Haiti got a lot of attention.
Yep.
But did not really highlight the fact that we as a church have done a superb job there. And actually, in the aftermath of the earthquake, we're one of the best responders.
Right.
Of all of the organizations and all of that. And so it sort of frustrated me. They put out this thing about Kony, whereas we have churches doing a superb ministry in both Uganda and Congo, ministering to the needs of the people. And Wesleyans are pretty much ignorant to what's happening. I guess that's my responsibility and my job to try to somehow get the word out there. Somehow my newsletters don't go viral.
Yeah, and that's why you're on the show,
anyway,
so we can get word out.
Sorry?
Yeah, I just said that's why you're on the show, so we can kind of get word out here.
Yeah. Our work in the Congo is, about 20, 25 years old. It began by a group of ministers who left the United Methodist Church, Congolese, in order to start their own church that would be more evangelical. They became acquainted with the Wesleyan Church in Zambia, next door to them, to the south, and then affiliated with the Wesleyan Church in Zambia, and through that route became part of us. Our churches, for the most part, we have 50, 60 churches in the Congo. For the most part are located in the southeast, a bit south of where most of the troubled areas are at the moment, and one large church in Kinshasa, the capital city, which is separated then, of course, by a vast jungle between that and the rest of our churches. We have a primary school there that they operate with 500 and some students. We have a Bible college with 15 students. Doing that pretty much without outside help from North America, very little help. Congo, according to the United Nations, is it ranks lowest on the Human Development Index that the United Nations puts out. That looks at income and health and education and a variety of factors. People are usually surprised from the States. They say, well, isn't Haiti down there?
Yeah.
Actually, on that index, there are 29 countries below Haiti. 28 of those are in Africa.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And the Congo sits at the bottom of the heap.
No way. Wow.
But we have solid leadership and a solid church there. One of the new exciting things that's happening next month, we will be launching a Jesus Film team. And a team will be going in to train them, taking in the equipment to beef up their evangelism efforts. Eastern New York, New England District is getting behind that, providing some financing to make that happen.
You know, Bob, a lot of what you're saying here is certainly news to me. I know it'd be news to most Wesleyans here in North America. So what are some ministry opportunities where people here can get involved? How can they get engaged with the work there?
One of the things they told me in Congo when I was there, they feel isolated from the rest of the church. Congo is a former Belgian colony, French-speaking the official language, and they wondered if perhaps their language was a barrier. Well, we speak French in Haiti, and the church knows about them. It's just that they're unknown. When we were planning this Jesus Film launch, the plan was from the Eastern New York, New England district, they were going to send a team of pastors over to help launch it. Over time, one by one, the members of that team fell by the wayside for a variety of reasons. And so now we got nobody to send to them again.
Wow.
I would love to get some pastors to be able to go into Congo just to hold a pastor's seminar. And it's not so much the teaching that is needed, though that's good and important. It's being able to simply sit down and connect as brothers, that we're part of a larger worldwide Wesleyan family.
Yeah. So what, I mean, is part of this the cost to get over there? Do you think this is a deterrent?
Yeah, it's more costly than going to the south, to Haiti or Latin America or something. It is pricey. If you look at the State Department travel advisories, you wouldn't want to go anywhere near Congo.
Okay.
Because they highlight they highlight the turmoil up in the Northeast, and they highlight the disease and all that sort of thing. But we can go in safely.
Bob, tell us, you know, talked a little bit about Kony 12. Tell us right now what kind of work God is doing there in Africa. I know we just watched a video at our church about the Jesus Film Project and the success of that, and are getting behind that. But just how is the Spirit of God moving in the continent right now?
These are days of harvest, without a doubt. The Wesleyan Church worldwide ministry is divided into 7 areas. The Africa area being the largest. But the Africa area also at the present time is the one that is growing the most rapidly. Country in the world that has grown the past decade, grown the most number of members is in Mozambique. A lot of Jesus film stuff there.
Okay.
Country that has planted more churches than any country in the world has been Zambia.
Oh, wow.
Percentage growth officially is Sri Lanka, which I don't think is in Africa unless they moved it. But the church in Uganda, which I didn't talk about, they never figured out percentage growth on it because it didn't exist at the beginning of the 10-year decade, so you can't calculate. But in the past 10 years, they've planted 66, 67 churches.
Wow.
In Uganda. So probably their growth rate is faster than the church in Sri Lanka. Things are expanding. The African churches are maturing. They are sending their own missionaries. The church in Congo, remember this is the poorest country in the world. The church in Congo has sent their own missionary to Cameroon.
Oh, that's crazy.
Wow.
That's commendable.
Church in Liberia, which is bumping the bottom with Congo in human development, has sent their missionary to Nigeria. And just this month, the church in Ghana will be sending a missionary into Burkina Faso to the north. God is doing marvelous things. If my calculations are correct, if the trends continue for the next decade, the Wesleyan Church in Africa will be as large as the Wesleyan Church in North America. Wow. In terms of number of members.
Wow. Yeah. So a lot because a lot of times, especially in North American Wesleyans, sometimes the statistics and everything we hear is so discouraging. And, just saw some statistics. I think 25% of all Wesleyans attend a church of over 1,000 or more. And so our larger churches are growing and our smaller churches are not growing. And so to hear what God is doing there gives me hope, and my prayer is that just as you guys are experiencing harvest right now, that's coming our way soon here in North America.
Bob, I'm just curious, there may be those that listen to the show today and want to get more involved with what you're doing with you and Brenda personally. I assume they could go to the Global Partners website and get more information about you and the ministry that you're involved with?
It'd be better to go to the Africa area website,
okay,
which is gpafrica.org. And Brenda also maintains a Facebook group, Bagley Backers, which you could look up, and current stuff that's happening all the time is posted up there.
Hey, one question in the chat room from Doug Dennis. He wants to know when the African church is going to start offering conferences for North American pastors to teach us what you're doing over there. And I would second that.
Yeah, Doug was just out here.
Yep.
He just left a week ago. We had a great time.
Well, that is an interesting question.
Yeah.
I mean, if something's working in one spot, why do we think we need to take our model there? What about bringing?
Because we're Americans.
Well, that's what we think. But that's
well. Here's the thing too. I was listening to a podcast in the parable of the sower, and it's just there's 4 types of soil, and only one of them works. Only one of them multiplies. And right now, the soil in Africa is fertile and it's multiplying, and I feel like right now we're harvesting some rocky soil over here sometimes.
All right. Hey, well, Bob, also we should just say we're talking in the pre-show. You are going to be at the General Conference in Lexington, Kentucky, June the 2nd through the 6th. So I know that if there are those that are listening, they're going to be there. They can talk to you then. Also, you're going to be in the States for a few weeks after General Conference. Again, is that website still the best place to get in contact with you personally?
Yes, it would be. Yeah, and at General Conference, the best way to find me is to go to the Global Partners booth.
Yeah, and we need to invite
Yeah.
you to come by our booth. Maybe we'll
Yes.
get maybe we'll get a little bit more discussion at some point. There.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're going to be there, and we'll be
great.
streaming live. So, yeah, come by the booth, and we'll give you a little FaceTime.
Yeah.
All right. Bob, thanks so much for joining us. Blessings on you and on the ministry that you and Brenda have embarked upon there.
Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for being here.
All right. Bye-bye.
Hey, Bob, at the end of our interview, talked about General Conference 2012, which is coming up at the beginning of June in Lexington, Kentucky. And just want to take a moment right now and thank some fine Wesleyan educational institutions who are actually sponsoring us, and sponsoring the Techology Show to be there. To provide you some quality entertainment and quality. It's about information.
And
it's
reporting.
We're reporting and really trying to do. I mean, our goal is to do something that's never been done at a General Conference before. So I want to send a shout out to Wesley Seminary. They're sponsoring us today. Southern Wesleyan is actually sponsoring 2 days.
Yep.
Kingswood University, formerly Bethany Bible College, and Oklahoma Wesleyan is sponsoring today. And so just huge thanks to them. They have been a huge blessing to us, and our goal during General Conference is to send people their way. We believe in our Wesleyan institutions. We support our Wesleyan institutions.
And let me say that we sent out these letters with our vision about going to General Conference and needing sponsorship.
Yes.
And within the hour of each of these presidents that I sent the letter to, within the hour that they saw the email,
right.
I mean, in 5 minutes, I had a response from Dr. Mark Gorvet at Kingswood University.
Yeah.
And so just a huge thanks to them. And this helps us. It just, people don't understand the costs that are involved to go, to take the show, to get the things that we need. And this
to
really
rent that
helps
big
us.
bus that we've branded on the side.
Yeah. I mean, just
to get Sarah Palin's bus and rebrand it.
The first class section of flying. I mean, we have none of that. All right. Hey, listen, a few weeks ago, Matthew put me on to a blog post by Kem Meyer, and it was entitled 4 Reasons Why It's Okay to Pass Notes in Church. And so I shot her out an email and asked if she could come on the show for just 10 or 15 minutes. She said she would do that, and I believe we have her on the Skype line right now.
We do.
Kem, how are you this morning?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing fine. All right. So listen, we were told not to pass notes in church. And so now you're telling us it's okay?
Yeah. And I guess there's a new definition of what a note is, too.
Okay, so we loved this post. Talk to us a little bit about it and the 4 reasons that you wrote about.
Well, I think that all of us have the best intentions. I mean, it's what we talk about a lot, you know. And we get caught up on the methods, and the methods become our theology. And what we're used to, we get so stuck in man-made rules or man-made mediums, and we don't understand, or we're so fearful of, you know, what's unknown, or we're only aware of the downside. But it's just like, I was trying to find it before you guys called me today. There was a quote. You remember when the Bible was printed, like the first time it was printed in movable type and or on the printing press? And you remember, I was trying to find that quote, but I mean, there was an uproar from all the priests and church leaders and fearful of how that was going to compromise the gospel.
Yeah, the fear was it was going to get out to the people.
We can't have it in their hands.
And that it would be misconstrued and misused and all that stuff. And it's just like every new medium that's introduced, it creates this thing. And I think that especially Christians because they're trying so hard, and especially guardians of the church, our pastors and our church leaders, they're trying so hard and so trying to be intentional of protecting it, that they're protecting a lot of man-made rules and not looking at the heart behind it. And also, there's a cultural shift. I think there's a cultural part of connecting with people that's often ignored.
Absolutely.
I was talking to a friend of mine about this yesterday, and Jesus was all about breaking man-made rules, you know, and just destroying the things that just didn't matter. And it was all about contextualization, and environment was so important. And a lot of, you know, the question isn't would Jesus use an iPad or an iPhone to read the Bible. That's not the question. I mean, the culture today, it's all this transmedia. The big gargantuan one place that you go to for the story, there's not one place. There's little intersections, little pieces of the story that all work together. And that's how I look at the e-tools for our spiritual development and reading the Bible. None of it is to replace traditional tools. You know, it's all, if used properly, it can enhance, you know. So I guess I tried to make it real simple, just like on a practical term, and elevate the four things I had called it, because I don't remember. First of all was just elevating that story, and it gets people talking. The gospel is shared from story to story, from person to person, life on life discipleship. And what's the best way to get people sharing the story, talking about their faith journey? Make it portable, make it easy for them to carry. It's not something to be feared. And our online tools or our mobile tools, if used productively, and if we help people see what the downsides to the upsides are, I mean, it's just everything's in moderation, but this can actually enhance face-to-face communication. It can enhance your offline spiritual growth. It's just a connector. And the other one is just rallying around, again, that transmedia, all these little sections of the story that you can touch with, and they layer on top of each other and reinforce a common theme. Why would we not want to reinforce God's word in all kinds of different layers? And so the passing notes in church was just related. I read that article you sent to me. Did you talk about that earlier?
Yeah, well, last week we talked about it, but we thought Matthew said, "Man, we need to talk to Kem about that." The whole thing is just, I mean, it's amazing to me that you have. And for those who don't know what we're talking about, this is a story that we referred to last week, where a pastor goes to a church and he has his Bible on an iPad, and the minister realizes it, and so he encourages people to take their Bibles out, and then he says, and I'm not talking about your iPhone or your iPad, I'm talking about the Bible.
While looking right at the guy, right at this pastor.
Yeah, so we were just curious what you thought about that.
It made me sad.
Yeah. No, seriously, it is. I mean, it's sad, but it's funny. I mean, it's just like, because it seems a little bit outrageous that you would make that distinction.
But you know what? I want to just share a story from back in the day. Let's see. My daughter's 23 now, but back when she was like 13 and she was a freshman in high school, that's when like chat was becoming real, you know, just the IMing and AOL.
AOL
I wasn't familiar with AOL, and I mean, I was familiar with the technology, but I was getting so hung up on language and so hung up on the medium that I was just like, I didn't take the time to get to know about what people were rallying around. So my daughter starts IMing all these kids in school, you know, and all, this is my friend, and I'm just talking to my friends, you know, and so these friends, she didn't know their last names. She never spoke to them in school, and so I would freak out, because that's not the definition of a friend, and she's calling them her friends. Well, the language had changed in the culture. The definition of a friend it wasn't the same as it was when I was growing up, and so I'm getting all hung up on the language, and so I'm like, well, you're changing truth. Well, no, she wasn't changing truth. I could still show her what real life friendship was, and we could still nurture that. The instant messaging tool didn't cancel all that out. And I think that when I look at, like, so I made that mistake. You know, I'm just saying we all have little areas in our life where we're like, we mock or we discount something that we deem as unnecessary.
Yep.
Or we deem as we say it's irrelevant. And I think what's so funny about this, and I have blind spots in my life. It's not in this area, because I want to push the edge on that, and it's just something I connect with. But it's like, we're not changing truth. If I am reading the Bible on my iPad, or I'm reading it on my iPhone, or I'm reading it in the printed Bible, I'm not changing truth. If I'm a pastor or a church leader, there's nothing blasphemous, there's nothing unholy, there's nothing unfaithful.
Yeah.
And so I guess when I see stuff like that, I'm just challenged. I'm just challenged to ask God, where am I making that mistake in my own life, where I'm getting hung up on language that's not right? Point. Where do I need to adapt to help people connect with the story? And this one's really easy for me to diagnose because I'm on the outside, and it hurts me because I know that I never forget what it's like not to believe. I just never forget that. And I know for many, many years I was seeking, and well-meaning Christians, I'll just say they were well-meaning. Most of them probably were.
Most were. That's right.
Kem, we just started using the YouVersion Live a few months ago, and about 3 weeks ago, a guy left a praise report on the sermon notes about how his son had kind of strayed away from the Lord, but was at basic training, and had wrote his father this long letter just saying, "Dad, I'm sitting in chapel, I'm weeping, and I regret all the times I didn't go to church with you." And so the dad shares that online. I knew who it was because we don't have a whole lot of guys in the Army. Sought the dad out. It fit right into my sermon the next week about family. I said, "Can I share this story?" And so his story that he shared online became a story that, because our church had gathered around his son and prayed for his son before he left. And without that technology, I don't know that he would have come up and shared that story, because he kind of shared it anonymously. Mm-hmm. But it was just amazing that it's just a tool. Technology is not the end all be all. It's just a tool to connect and to get those stories out there, and to just really support one another in our faith.
I think I'm going to make up a word here, but like every medium, every action, every every medium, every action can be vulgarized. It could be distorted.
Yes,
it could be disrupted.
And it has. We've talked.
And it's not just technology that has that danger. My friend Phil Cook said something a while ago, a long time ago, and it stuck with me. He said, "You don't throw something out just because it has a downside, because everything has a downside. Nobody threw out accounting principles because of Enron."
Yeah. No, good point.
And that's kind of what I was like. There is a real downside, and as a matter of fact, that right now I'm on a little. I've grounded myself from too much screen time right now. I took it too far. Last year I kind of started. I don't know. My eyes started turning gray, and I started losing color, and little pieces of my brain started dying in spots, and I was losing my muse. I'm like, what is this? I can't figure this out. And then I realized that everything I do is connected to a screen. And so I was like, I got to mix it up. And so, I mean, this is that, but that is like every area of your life. Take out technology. People are dealing with food. They're dealing with lust. They're dealing with, you just got to, it's this moderation everywhere. How do you lean into the provider, not the provision?
Yeah. Gee, so well put. One of the things that I thought when I read this blog post that you did on, it's okay to pass notes in church, and you alluded to this, that there's been a paradigm shift in terms of communication. And so when I was a kid, I'm 47 years old. No, I'm 48. 48 years old. As a kid, information was still controlled. So some organization, may desire to take information and then disseminate it the way that they want to disseminate it. And the internet was a game changer for that in the mid-90s. And no longer can one control information. And with this paradigm shift, one has to enter into the conversation. to be part of that, and that this conversation is happening at different points. And that's what I see you really pointing out here, and the use of the technology even during church. It is to join into the flow of the conversation. It is not to compete with the conversation. Am I close here?
Yeah, and I think there's so many layers to that. Some of it's just sharing. It's not hoarding. I mean, that's part of it too, you know. Some of it is, and you know this, but I mean, and I do this too. I mean, there's two parts to a conversation. There's listening and there's sharing.
Yeah.
And talking is not communication. Broadcasting is not communication. So even social media and passing notes in church, you know, it can become a broadcast just as destructive as hoarding information just from a platform, you know. Sure. There's a very strong component to listening, and there's a very strong component to just sharing from your own life, not sharing because you're pushing an agenda or trying to convert somebody on the spot. It's just this real life. And my friend really challenged me on this. I mean, I understood the principles, but when he finally put it and that's something I put in the blog post, it's like, this is like one of the most the newest beneficial disciple tools that we have at our disposal, and we overlook it. What does faith in Christ look like in a daily life? What does it look like when I go to the grocery store? What does it look like when I'm watching a movie? What does it look like when I'm facing loss? I mean, this is just real-time human. So we church leaders and pastors, you know, that is an overlooked discipleship tool. But it's such a hard thing for us to get our head around, because that means we're not sermonating. It means we're just sharing our life. And like, oh, that's two different things. No, I preach.
Yeah.
I don't share. You know, that's a very vulnerable thing.
Well, it is. I also think, too, that for some people, Kem, that just new technologies are threatening in general. And so, I mean, some churches face the real challenge of that, you know, they don't have anyone in those leadership positions in the church that are up with the technology. So I think that, you know, part of the challenge going forward is to try to educate churches, educate pastors, educate leadership so that they can get on board with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and no, it's just like little small interventions. It's not taking over and becoming Mashable in your church, and it's just like little small interventions. You know, there's a story my pastor tells. I think I'm going to get it wrong, but I mean, he was doing some biology trip in college in Africa, and there was some giant scary monster in the jungle. I don't remember the details. I just remember when his life was threatened, his his jungle expedition guide was like, get small, get small, get small, get small. Yeah. That's how you protect yourself. And I kind of laugh because sometimes it is threatening. There are real dangers. You know, I get concerned sometimes when I project where our culture is going, and I can't stop that. I can't stop where technology is going. I can't stop where transmedia is going. I can't stop the threats that evil will exploit, you know. But looking where if we go like this, we're sure not going to help anything, you know. So where can we be strong and have these little small interventions of truth? And the cool thing that we got going for us, what is culture really like seeking out? They're seeking out the underground. They're seeking out the alternative.
Yep.
They're seeking out what's countercultural, and that's what Jesus was all about. But Jesus used environments in the culture to share a countercultural message, you know, of transformation. And so that's complex, and humans get lazy, and so we just make things non-options. You know,
non-options. I love it. Well, if you only have one option, then it makes life a lot simpler.
Yeah.
Sure does. It's that false sense of holiness that we hold on to sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, gee, that one hurt. No, it's very well said. Well, listen, thanks so much for just giving us your time this morning. We know that you're busy, and this means a lot to us. And just to put a shout out for your book, Less Clutter, Less Noise. We love that book. People can get it on Kindle edition, order the real copy. And
of course, if you want less clutter, if you don't want to clutter up your bookshelf, Kindle edition.
No, we're not talking about the book on the iPad or the iPhone. We're talking about the same copy that Jesus had.
Yeah.
Crazy. Kem, where can our listeners find you?
Well, that is such an interesting question, Tony.
On the
Right
internet.
now, like a turtle in its shell. My blog got hacked, so I'm in transition. But it's KemMeyer.com.
Oh.
KEMMEYER.com.
You got
It's
hacked?
such a bummer. That
It is, and
it's
so the content's always changing. I think right now just direction my Twitter page, but I've been kind of quiet. But I'm going to ramp up again soon.
All righty. Well, we hate that for you. Hey, listen, thanks again for taking time out to be with us.
Hey, thanks for inviting me.
All right. Have a good day.
You too. See ya.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. Always refreshing. It's the second time we've had Kem, and would really encourage you. In our show notes, we've got the link to 4 reasons why it's okay to pass notes in church. And I do think that she just taps into a whole generation and the way that they're communicating, and that's what this is about. It is about how people communicate and how they relate with the message.
I direct people in the chat room. It was very ironic. On the way over here today, I was listening to Kim's presentation from the Exponential Conference last year, and she talked about online communication. And one of the things she talks about is your church website should not be a brochure for your church. It should be a living room where people can gather and grow and share. And that's very, very challenging, a very challenging thought. But I think that goes along with what she was talking about in her post and today, just that we've just got to create places for people to connect. And even if it's digitally, there's still an element of the human touch involved.
Hey, and I'd encourage people to go back and listen to the whole show that we did with Kem back a few weeks ago. And she is super fun. Like, she is, just because of the way that she's, like, the whole thing about the monster in Africa, she's such an illustrator. As she tells stories, it's always connecting it with something else. And those are my favorite kind of people to listen to.
All right, well, let's go ahead and keep rolling here, and let's move on to They Said It.
Oh, let's get the volume up.
Read my lips.
I'm going to say this again.
I've never taken steroids or HGH.
I took the initiative in creating the internet.
The Macintosh, of all the machines I've ever seen, is the only one that meets that standard.
I'm not a crook.
If you know what you're doing here, slide out.
It took a real dark, hostile turn. Certainly, as I saw it, it became very hostile toward Christianity, to the point that many students did walk out, including some of my students. They felt that they were attacked, a very pointed, direct attack on one particular group of students. It's amazing that we go to an anti-bullying speech and one group of students is picked on in particular with harsh, profane language. Rick Tuttle, a teacher at Suter Union High School in Southern California, commenting on Dan Savage's derogatory comments toward Christians at an anti-bullying event sponsored by Journalism Education Association and the National Scholastic Press Association. Source, CNN.
When you put everything on Facebook, you have to realize there are consequences for your actions. I decided to do something I knew would totally impact her, and then next time she'd think, I don't want my face all over Facebook again with a red X over my mouth. Denise Abbott, the mother of 13-year-old Ava Abbott, who took over her daughter's Facebook account and put a red X over her mouth and accompanied it with the following words. I do not know how to keep my mouth shut. I am no longer allowed on Facebook or my phone. Please ask why. My mom says I have to answer anyone that asks. Source, MSNBC. All right, so Heath, you're the one that put me onto the Rick Savage story.
Dan Savage.
Dan Savage. So there have been some apologies.
Right. If you don't know, Dan Savage is a sex columnist in Seattle. A very graphic, very he is homosexual, has a husband per se. But he's founded the It Gets Better project. And if you saw the video, a lot of politicians, even Woody from Toy Story is in this video, talking to the LGBT community about bullying. And in this speech, he talks about that these stories in the Bible are BS and uses the word. Some students start walking out. He basically calls them pansies. And so
he verbally goes after them as
right.
He sees them
He's
walking
like,
out.
yeah. And then when he gets done, he says, okay, you can go tell the people outside, all the Bible people, that I'm done bashing the Bible. They can come back in. And it's just amazing to see this video and these kids walking out. What the most amazing thing is the response of the audience, that as he is saying these things and as he calls these students' names as they're leaving, the audience erupts in cheers. And there's been varying reports that it was a couple of dozen students that walked out to maybe 100 or so. He apologizes from the platform, and very insincere apology. At first the organization, the Journalism Education Association, did not apologize. They kind of said, well, these students are here and they need to learn to hear both sides. They've now come out full-blown apology. And this event was several weeks ago, but the videos just got picked up this weekend. And now Dan Savage has issued this video. And actually,
he's issued an apology.
He's issued an apology, and the Catholic League has not accepted his apology. There was actually an organization called Go Proud, which is a gay and lesbian organization, demanded that, just blasted what he did. The hard thing for me, okay, is there's two things that I want to say about this story. Number one, this is going to be the norm, okay? This is the future we're headed to. There are so many anti-bullying things out there, and there's only one group you're allowed to bully, and that's Christians. You can pretty much do that and get away with it. Comedians do it all the time, and they can get away with it. So we have got to learn that we can't just accept that and not do anything about it, but we've got to learn how to stand up and be strong and do that in love. The second thing is this. Dan Savage is profane. I mean, he has said things about Rick Santorum. He has said things on TV. It's no secret what he says. His columns out there every week. I mean, the first thing he said, his first line in his speech, this anti-bullying speech, his first line was, "I hope you're all using birth control." That's his first line. To me, the fact that our current administration has partnered with him and his organization is scary to me, because if you read anything he says online, he's a bully. He is a bully. And when they brought him in to speak, it's like when the Miami Marlins hired Ozzie Guillen. Ozzie Guillen came out, said some stuff about Castro, got suspended. And the cry from everybody was, well, what do you expect? This is Ozzie Guillen. Same thing here. If you read Dan Savage's column, just one of his columns.
So you're saying no one should be surprised by this?
This is his normal speech. This is his normal language. This is how he talks. This is how he treats people. And so what you saw at this event is not like out of character for him. This is who he is. And so
well, and the hypocrisy here is that this is an anti-bullying
right.
rally, and there's one group of students that were bullied.
And yes, and he was there to talk about using the internet and social media to spot bullying and to stop it. And let's be clear here. We should not bully anybody for their beliefs or for their lifestyle. We're to treat everybody in love. And
alrighty, well, listen, let's move on to this next story real quick. This is an opinion show, so I'm going to give my opinion.
Yes.
I thought the guy who shot the computer, because his daughter couldn't use Facebook properly, he felt like she's putting too much family information out.
Yeah.
I thought that was over the top.
Yes.
The press that this story is getting, I'm not quite sure it's worthy of it. And I don't see this as, would I do this? No, I wouldn't have done this.
Right.
But do I think it's outrageous? I don't necessarily think it's outrageous, especially when you talk, the 13-year-old daughter was on MSNBC. The link we give you will show you the video. And the daughter, her response to all this is, I deserved it. Because, you know, I was told not to put this stuff out, but I kept doing it against my mom's wishes.
Yeah.
Well, I would like if let's say that this mom came to you before she did this, before she posted that, and she said, "This is what I think is a just punishment." Would you have said, "Yeah, I agree"? As you counsel her, would you say, "Yeah, I think that's a wise or smart way to handle this, or an appropriate way to handle this"? Or would you have said, "You know, public humiliation may not be the best means of doing this"? So I mean, yeah. I'll stop talking.
When I'm in public and I see, and
that was
I'm
a
guilty of
non-answer, by
this,
the way.
and I see a parent snap at their kid, spank their kid. I mean, I'm not just talking about spank their kid, but I mean just go after their kid and just be. It gives me the willies, and I know that I've been short with my kids before. And I know this is, and to me this is kind of the same as when I first see this, I kind of get the willies because it's like it's very public, and I'm not saying it's not.
Yeah, my point is that, I mean, the illustration you gave, we can all give examples of parents in public that we felt like discipline their kid publicly in a good way, discipline them in a bad way. It was more punitive than it was discipline, and we say, boy, now that was awful. It turned into a fiasco for everyone, including the child. Am I saying this is the textbook case to answer Matthew? If she would have come to me, my response to this would have been, you know, I wouldn't do this with my daughter. I wouldn't recommend it.
Right.
My point is this: I'm not sure it warrants all the attention that it's getting.
So let's give it some attention.
I mean, to the point of abuse. I mean, so there have been some people who have written articles saying that this is abuse. That's nonsense.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that.
This is not abuse,
No.
and whether we agree that this was the proper way to do it, the mother was saying, "All right, I keep telling you not to make this public, so here's what I'll do. I'll make this. You want it public? We'll make it public."
Yeah.
I mean, and what she's doing exactly what the daughter does. Now, again, to answer Matthew, would I advise that? Well, no, I wouldn't advise that. But this doesn't borderline on abuse, as far as I'm concerned.
I think, and I may do this. This could be my get rich idea.
Get ready,
but you
Heath's
think
kids.
about all the parenting books. You think about all the parenting books that talk about potty training and teaching your kids certain things.
Go potty train on Facebook.
I mean, you think about it. Yeah, I mean, really training your kids in the proper use of social media, how to spell, not to use bad language, not to just change your status from in a relationship to single without telling your girlfriend or boyfriend, you know.
Matthew, question to you. So would it have been, do you think it'd be appropriate for the mother to just shut down the Facebook account?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's where I would go with that. That's where I'd say, all right, it's done. And you have to, but with that, you've also got to set that up from the beginning to say, hey, as you're entering into this world of social media, here are the ground rules as you are living under my roof. Here are the things. There is a movement that talks about how, you know, well, our kids' privacy and all that. Well, how dare you invade your kids' privacy? Like the day that I'm a parent, like my kids aren't. There is nothing private about the family.
This is not a democracy. It is a dictatorship.
No. I don't mean it to come across that way, but there's not going to be something where I'd be like, oh no, you know, I can't check what's going on Facebook because I don't want to. No, those are things that I would encourage parents to say, if you're giving your child license to interact in these ways while they are your child, you have every right to look at what's going on. Just as back in the day, you know, it would have been, well, I don't want to invade their privacy and go into their room and see what's in their drawer or anything like that. No, this is your house. That's not their room. That's your room. They're staying there. And that's like, you have license to go in and do stuff like that.
I just saw a story this morning where a student is suing some kids at their school for bullying them on Facebook. And what if as a parent, if these parents whose kids are bullying other kids, if they were monitoring,
yeah, they might could
and walk into the room like, hey, I want to ask you, you said on Facebook to
Good point.
little Tim that you were going to whip his you-know-what and that he was an ugly, you know, to have a conversation.
Part of the problem, our parents not engaged.
That's right.
The problem is, and I'm guilty, is we're so busy updating our own status that we aren't checking on our kids' status.
All right, listen, let's talk about the future, what's coming up. No show next week. No show. For some of you, it's going to be withdrawal. I know it's going to be rough.
But what you can do is next Wednesday, go to iTunes, download one of our shows, and leave us a review and rank the show.
That's right. You could do that. Go watch the Kem or listen to the Kem Meyer episode and give it a thumbs up on YouTube or something like that.
Master TG is going to be gone. Be in Haiti next
week. Be in
week.
Haiti, and I'm excited about that. Then I get back. I think it's late that Tuesday. I think so. I might still have the Haitian dust on my person as I come in here to do the show.
So cool. And so we'll get a little debrief from him. Also, on May the 16th, Dr. Everett Piper is going to join us. He is the president of Oklahoma Wesleyan University. On that day, there's a memorial for Chuck Colson, and Dr. Piper knew Chuck Colson, so we're going to get him to just talk a little bit about his life and his legacy. May the 23rd, Dr. H.C. Wilson, General Director of Global Partners. He's the outgoing director. He's going to be with us, talk a little bit about that, but also we really want to tap his wealth of information about ministry in general, life. Just devoted to ministry. June the 2nd through the 6th. This is something we're really excited about. Yeah, we're not just bringing a show.
We are bringing a multitude of shows. You guys, if you go through withdrawal the week that I'm gone, this is when you're going to get your fix.
That's right.
This is when this comes back on for General Conference.
And joining us on the panel to discuss things that are happening there will be Dr. Keith Drury, his son David Drury, and also Steven Sheets.
Yeah, and others that we drag into the booth.
There'll be all kinds of
people.
And
we will have the dog pound or the fan seating area, where you can come. If you are there at General Conference, you can wave in the back of the camera. Bring your signs. Throw money. Make big signs out of poster board like "Hi Mom" and stuff like that to hold up in the background. But we are excited about this. Also, the prequel conference, which is the very first day before the first session. It's sponsored by Spiritual Formation Department. Talk a little bit about that and what's going on, because we are actually the streaming provider for that.
Yeah, and Dr. Don Dayton is going to be the speaker for that, and then afterwards, David Drury and myself will lead a conversation. Also, the week before, on May the 23rd, we're going to be giving away a copy of Dr. Don Dayton's book, Discovering the Evangelical Heritage. We already have that in-house. It's ready to go. And as we, on May the 16th, we'll start pumping that, and you can get your name in for that giveaway. All right, Heath, where can our listeners find you on the internet?
Then go to heathmullican.com, and there in the right-hand corner, all the links to everywhere I'm at on the internet, Twitter, Facebook, everywhere. So,
TG, are you going to be able to post anything next week as you're in Haiti?
I'm not sure. I'm going to try.
Okay.
I actually, last year before I went, I bought a Kindle 3G international version, which was supposed to work in Haiti. It didn't work that week that I was there. So I actually called them just yesterday to say, hey, last year when I was there, this didn't happen. They walked me through something that I can do to just double check to try to get it on there. So I did that with the intention of, well, one, having a Kindle to read from, but two, to use the free 3G to get on the experimental browser and to be able to post updates to Twitter. So if I am connected, you will find that all at twitter.com/CT2S. So that's short code for crashing to the sea, which is my old Twitter handle, but was too long and took up too many of the 140 characters.
And what we'll do is Heath and I will monitor that next week. And if you're able to get tweets out, we'll retweet it. And people can
definitely do. Right.
You can find me at facebook.com/AKC64. And if you want to do further research on anything we discussed today, you can find all the links to the stories we covered at our website, thetechnologyshow.com. If you want to contact us, send your emails to thetechnologyshow@gmail.com, or better yet, and this is something that makes TG's day, why don't you call us? 3049 Theology, that's 304-986-5649. Leave us a message. We may even play your comments on the air. As always, thank you for joining us. Goodbye, everybody.
Adios. guy on a buffalo.